Well, at the risk of, to avoid us being fact-checked, the glass blowers of Murano actually use gas. I've seen them use gas. But I think that's about the only thing. Maybe a few cars on the Lido. But I think you make an excellent point. I mean, what did the poor people of Venice do to deserve her? And I feel sorry for all those people that were going to do their once-in-a-lifetime pose. Here I am in Venice and the canals turn green. Seriously, Rowan. But Rowan, to more serious topics, the United States has now horrified the ABC and the left generally by telling all its embassies, including the one in Canberra, to go look at the data on migrant crime, which is actually data the governments here mostly refuse to collect. I mean, it's too sensitive. America's State Department has even said, we just want to warn our friends that if you import a rapid number of individuals of any background, particularly of a culture that's radically different from Australia's, no names given, without any sort of mechanism for diffusing the impact, like, instead of having multiculturalism, that can lead to political unrest, that can lead to economic instability. Now, all this has been called by the Sydney Morning Herald an intervention into our domestic affairs. And ABC presenter Sally Sara this morning, I had to laugh, even wondered if America's information collecting should be stopped. Here she is.
Should the United States be allowed to gather data on migrants in Australia?
Should the United States be allowed to gather this information, Rowan? I mean, what's the panic here?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because whenever, I've said repeatedly that Donald Trump's administration is going to come to the rescue of Australia on the dreadful under-16 media ban. Now it's coming to our rescue on immigration by the sounds of it, or excessive immigration. The point here is, Andrew, that every time there's like a digital ID discussion or an identity card, or the World Economic Forum start talking about some kind of surveillance model or everybody doing whatever, the argument is always, well, if you've done nothing wrong, what's the problem? What's the problem with us surveying? What's the problem with us keeping data on you? What's the problem with us following you and tracking you if you're doing nothing wrong? And the same never applies in reverse. So I would say to the Sydney Morning Herald and the ABC, let's see all the data on immigrants in Australia, because if they've done nothing wrong, then that will be shown by the data. And if there's higher or lower levels of crime or whatever it might be, anything you care to name, let the data fall where the data falls. The only reason for not looking at data is because of what you're afraid to find. So I would say to, if what the Sydney Morning Herald and the ABC are suggesting is that we obscure and hide data, that to me sounds dangerously like what happened in the UK, where various immigrant communities were accused of various things, and for fear of being labelled racist, the authorities right through the authorities at council level, parliamentary level and so on, hid the data. And so I would say thank you for the Americans for pointing out to us that a key role of our government to protect every Australian, immigrants included, every nationality included, every race, every religion included, is to be scrupulous with analysing the data of what people coming into this country, vetted or unvetted or whatever it might be. It could be 3,000 Gazans, it could be this, it could be that, it could be anyone from anywhere. Let's have the data on 5 years' time, on 10 years' time, on 20 years' time, and see whether this policy of multiculturalism without enforced assimilation works or doesn't work. And only the data can tell us that, Andy.
Well, in Australia, we have avoided collecting this data. It's quite extraordinary. And, it allowed people like the then boss of ASIO once to say, I don't see any link between refugees and terrorism here, when in fact I think it's 4 Australians, maybe 5 Australians have been killed in terrorist attacks by people we took in as refugees from Muslim countries. But the US was looking for the kind of information that Denmark does collect. And I've got to say the findings are confronting. It's collected the violent crime conviction rates in Denmark per country of origin. And as I scroll down this graphic, Rowan, from highest to lowest, Viewers should note that red is for immigrants from Middle Eastern and North African Muslim countries, Kuwait, Tunisia, Lebanon at the top. Black is for Denmark, for the Danish-born. And then blue, down the line, the least likely to commit crimes in violent crime in Denmark, is for immigrants from European countries. And then the immigrants with the very lowest conviction rate include Indians, Chinese and Australians. We're in the other group. That's lower than for ethnic Danes. Now, I've gone through those results. Rowan, are these inflammatory results or educational, important?
Well, they're only inflammatory if you make them inflammatory by hiding them and refusing to discuss them and refusing to have an honest conversation between the government and the population, the people, about what the immigration policies actually mean. If you're not open, if you're not transparent, then that sort of data becomes inflammatory because the government is hiding it. And you've seen that right across Europe. It's the classic left-wing thing. We're going to do something, but we're going to hide it and obscure it and not let people know what the awful results of what our left-wing decisions are. The Australian people deserve the same honesty that the Danish government is giving, and let the data fall where the data falls, and let people see the results and then form policy based on that. We're always told, follow the science, listen to the science, this, that, and the other. So let's have the science on immigration, and let's have it given to us honestly, as well as the modelling of what our current policies will mean for the future demographics of this country. This government's so keen on modelling. Let's have the modelling of the financial impacts, the work impacts, the housing impacts, the social cohesion impacts of the government's current immigration policies.
Well, I have to say that Britain's Labor government has now promised to do similar releases of data this year. I believe it when I see it, but that's what they've promised. Rowan Dean, thank you so much indeed for your time.